community events like this, raising funds for much needed equipment in the community through Heart of the Nation, which you're heading up, is really exciting from our end. Obviously, your own personal episode was what brought about Heart of the Nation, but why is it so important to you these days?
Well, look, I think the fact that I survived a sudden cardiac arrest when I woke up in hospital and found out that I was only 1 in 10 that survive, so 10% of people survive, 90% do not survive. That's really what hit me very hard. So I was extremely fortunate to survive because I had all the links in what we call the chain of survival in place. And we talk about the chain of survival for people in cardiac arrest being call, push, shock. 3 very simple things that we need bystanders to be able to do. But it's that last link in the chain, the shock from an AED or defibrillator, that is missing in most cases of cardiac arrest. And that's the thing that actually resuscitates the patient. So that's why I'm so passionate about raising awareness, but also helping to get these devices out into the community where they are needed.
And that's the focus of Heart of the Nation now, isn't it? It's to get these out into sporting change rooms and shopping centres and bus stops and everywhere pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely, everywhere. And, importantly, to have them accessible on the field at sporting events. One thing I've noticed, I play a bit of cricket myself and I love the sport. And since my own cardiac arrest, I've noticed that a lot of clubhouses will have an AED inside the clubhouse and it's locked. And nobody's got the key. So we've got to try and change that. What we're encouraging teams to do is to get a portable AED that they can take with them. And we have one with our team now. In fact, most games we've got 3 because I've got my own personal one and we've got a club one, and then there's another gentleman in the team who works for the government. He's got an AED in his car, so sometimes we'll have 3 AEDs at the field, which is phenomenal. But some teams don't have that, and the shame of it is that if somebody goes into cardiac arrest without access to an AED, it could literally be the difference between life and death, and that's what we've got to change. We've got to make sure people are aware of the issue and that they can take steps to making sure that they can solve the problem.
Is the message getting through, Greg, and dare I say it, men, particularly of a certain age, and I think I can put myself into that same vintage as you, who are still trying to hang on to that semblance of youth and all that. But dare we say it, we're the at-risk generation, aren't we?
Yeah, look, it's interesting because you can't really predict it. Okay, now heart disease, they say, is on the rise in Australia. But it's not only heart disease that will cause a cardiac arrest. So there's a difference between heart attack and cardiac arrest. There's two different things. Most cardiac arrests are caused by heart attacks, but not all heart attacks will go into cardiac arrest. So they are 2 different things. At the same time, younger people can be predisposed to cardiac arrest through genetic conditions, totally unrelated to heart disease of that sort of typical type that we think of in terms of having blockages in the arteries due to fatty foods and things like that. So the stats around this are pretty confronting, actually. For 50 to 70% of people, so let's say 60%, for 60% of people that have a sudden cardiac arrest, that is their diagnosis that they have heart disease. So like myself, I had no idea that I had heart disease. I had none of the risk factors. I felt perfectly normal. So I'd take to the cricket field, I'd go and play competition tennis, I'd go walking, I'd go to the gym, do all those things and have no warning signs either. So little did I know I was a ticking time bomb. As I said, I'm so fortunate that I was in the right place at the right time. I had all 3 links in the chain of survival available for my responders. They were able to call 000, they were able to do CPR, and importantly, they had access to that AED. And it's that AED that got me back. So, we can think of ourselves as getting older. We might not be at risk, but we might not know even if we are. So that's the scary thing. That's why the community needs to be prepared to respond, because you can't predict it.
And that must be really confronting not just for you, obviously, but for your family, that the first time that they hear that you might have been at risk was when you had it.
That's right. And look, my wife is a cardiac nurse. So she works in this space a lot. And to her credit, she would look at my diet and she'd say to me, look, maybe you shouldn't have so much butter on your bread. Maybe you shouldn't have the chicken skin. Maybe you should have a few less sausages, because I don't want you to drop dead by the time you're 53. Well, I was 48 when I dropped dead. And,
Yeah.
it is a confronting thing. It's quite scary because,
Yeah.
like I said, I thought I was fit and healthy. I could go and play all these sports and do all these things without feeling unwell. And I thought I had no idea what was going on inside of me. And the thing is that if you go to a doctor and you don't have any of those risk factors, they won't refer you on for additional screening.
Yeah.
So you walk out of the GP clinic thinking that you're fine and you could drop dead. Now, it's awful to talk in these terms, but this is what's happening. And unfortunately, sport and physical exercise can heighten the risk, because if you're already predisposed to having a cardiac arrest, when your heart is under tremendous pressure from exerting, through the physical activity that you're engaging in, whether it's through sport, working in the backyard, swinging a sledgehammer or mowing the lawn, it can bring on that cardiac arrest. And I keep saying I was in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
I want every cricket team, not just the club, I want every cricket team in Australia to be able to fulfill all three links in the chain of survival for all players, because I've heard stories of, dads like me. They'll be at their juniors in the morning, doing throwdowns with their son. They go off to play their own game in the afternoon. They have a massive heart attack, go into cardiac arrest, and they don't survive.
Yeah.
We can change that. That's the thing. We know it's something that we can change, so let's change it.
Yeah. How successful has Heart of the Nation been in getting more of these portable AEDs into cricket grounds and cricket change rooms and clubs themselves?
Look, incredibly successful, but it's through the good work of the ACA and the Grassroots Cricket Fund. We ran a campaign last year through the Grassroots Cricket Fund for teams to apply to get an AED. 182. 182 is the number of AEDs we've got out to clubs all around Australia, which is phenomenal. Now, we have had some other ones by AEDs, through their own funding. Yep. So there's probably over 200 now that have gone out through this campaign through Cricket Australia and the ACA. So I'm so grateful that the ACA and Cricket Australia have done this promotion, because it is raising awareness, and more importantly, it's putting the tools to save a life in the hands of clubs around Australia. It's just incredible. And
obviously we hope that you hope that they don't have to get used, but the fact that it's much better to have what you don't need. Mate, look, than the other way around.
How often do you actually, cash in on your insurance for your home, your contents, your car? Not all that often, but you pay for it just in case. Now, somebody once said in one of the videos for this promotion that we did, he's a young guy who helped save a life on a cricket field. He said, it's the kind of thing that you'd rather have and not need than need and not have. And that is so true. Because if you're in a situation, I've got so many things going through my head as I talk about this, right? But I want to do an ad for this very thing of a bowler who's, running into bowl and he's getting out of breath and he's starting to feel a bit heavy in the chest. He's walking back to the top of his mark and he's thinking, I wonder what this is. What's going on? I wonder if my teammates know CPR. I wonder if my club's got an AED. He runs into bowl, hits the batsman on the pad, turns around to appeal and keels over, right? The catchline is, you don't want anyone to die wondering. You don't want anyone to die wondering. Can your teammates do CPR? Does your team have an AED? Because when somebody goes down, there's a bit of another long story here, but the night I had my cardiac arrest was a Friday night. I was supposed to go out and play cricket the next day. Now, had I not arrested that Friday night, I could have gone into cardiac arrest on the cricket field.
The day,
And my captain has said to me, he said, you're bloody lucky you had your event at the show that night, because if it had happened on the cricket field, I don't think any of us would have known how to do CPR. Yeah. Now, that's scary, right? Now, it kind of sounds flippant, and it was said in a kind of joking manner, because I survived. I'm lucky.
Yeah.
But how many teams could you go to today and say, right, if something happened, how many of us know how to do CPR or would be confident enough to do it? And the thing is, you don't have to be trained to do CPR. You just have to give it a go. The same with an AED. You don't have to be trained in how to use it. Just turn it on and use it, and it could save a life. So these are important messages. And thank goodness 182 clubs applied for that GCF, and they got a grant. And, it's just incredible what's being done in the space of the cricket world.